Have you learned how to roll out your perfect cake pop yet? So for these cake pops, I used a mini ice cream scoop. You can also roll out your cake pops to weigh 1 ounce, but if I want to work fast, I use my mini ice cream scoop. Anyways, so you want to mash the dough really well in your hands. Just mash it out, get as much air out of that cake pop as you can. And then you want to put it in between your palms and pretty much start with it flat. And then just start rolling your hands with your hands wide open. Again, don't close your hands, don't cup them in any way. Just start with it flat and then just start rolling. You don't have to go slow. You start up and then just start going quicker and quicker, and eventually it does turn into a cake pop. You also have to remember, when you want to make a good cake pop ball, you also want to have a really good consistency of your dough. I always look for a Play-Doh like consistency when I make my cake pops. It's just what's always worked for me. I feel like that's what gives you the perfect texture and smoothness to be able to roll out your cake pops. Again, you want to mash your dough. You want to make it, I call it warmed up. You're obviously not warming it up, but it's like you're making it more pliable, more squishy. I don't know. All I know is it gets out a lot of air from your cake pop dough. And then that's when, again, you start with it flat between your palms and just start rolling. That's what's going to help you get that consistent cake pop. Again, it does take practice. You're not going to get it right away. But again, you want that good dough consistency, and you want to never cup your hands. Just like how I have them here, they're open, no cupping at all, and no closing of your hands. And that's what helps, and that's what works for me. If your dough is too dry, you can always add a little bit of frosting. I know a lot of people don't use frosting nowadays, but I don't have like anything against using frosting. If I overbake my cake, I'm not going to go and bake a new cake. I'll just use a little bit of frosting and turn it into the consistency I want regardless. So yes, if you need frosting, it is okay. I promise. If anything, yeah, it might be a tiny bit sweeter, but it won't ruin your dough. Just don't add too much frosting, because then, yes, it'll be way too moist and you won't be able to dip your cake pops. The chocolate will just slide right off. As you can see here, I kind of did a slow-mo for you, and that's how I pretty much roll my cake pops. So you're like starting with your hands really close, and as your ball is rolling, your hands will come apart as the cake pop gets to the size that it becomes. Of course, you start with lots of pressure, and you're releasing that pressure as you go. And that's what gets you that perfect roundness. Again, you want to play with your dough. Make sure you have a good consistency, and that'll help you a ton. Okay, so if you've made it this far, I am going to give you my vanilla cake pop recipe. I personally will always use Betty Crocker's French vanilla when I'm making a vanilla cake pop dough. So I will add the 1 cup of water. I do not add any oil into any of the cakes I make for cake pops. I do add 3 tablespoons of sour cream. For my vanilla cake pops, I do add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And if I have it on hand, I will also add a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. The vanilla bean just takes it to a whole other level. If you cannot find the French vanilla version of Betty Crocker and you have to use the other vanilla version, I do add about 2 tablespoons of Jell-O vanilla pudding mix along with the other ingredients I mentioned before. Just because the vanilla ones that are not French vanilla for some reason don't come with that pudding. If you look at the boxes, the French vanilla one does say there's pudding in the mix, and then the vanilla one does not. If you have to use another brand of the box mixes, I still suggest adding the 2 to 3 tablespoons of vanilla pudding just to get that consistency that I like. Then I bake my cake at 325 degrees for about, I want to say 20-25 minutes, maybe 30. I can't remember, but I do measure with a toothpick starting around 20-25 minutes. If it comes out clean, then my cake is ready. Once I pull out that cake from the oven, I do put aluminum foil over it. So after those 15 minutes are up, I do remove the aluminum foil from the cake, but I let my cake fully cool down before I throw it into my stand mixer. The steam that was accumulated while it was covered will help bind your cake, regardless if it's a cool down cake or a hot cake. I personally feel like the hot cakes have been doing like a gummy texture. I'm not sure what it is. So I've just been cooling down my cakes. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a mom, so I bake and then I forget about my cakes until later. So regardless, most of my cakes, when I throw them into a mixer, it's always cooled down. So once I throw it into a mixer, it'll usually come together within like a few minutes, not even 5 minutes, like 2 minutes, sometimes not even a minute. Every day it's different. You know, your environment makes a huge difference in any of your baked goods. I hope this tutorial made sense. I hope it was helpful. Again, you want a really good consistency dough to make cake pops. That will help you a lot. And I promise practice makes progress. I don't say practice makes perfect because no one is perfect. But yes, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it, and it'll just be second nature at some point. You might even get to the point where you can just grab your dough and immediately have 1 ounce of cake pop dough already in your hand. That happens to me, but since lately I've been just making disc pops for the most part, I kind of lost the touch of holding 1 ounce in my hand, but it's okay. Again, you can use a mini ice cream scoop, you can use a scale, whatever works for you. So I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.